Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our International Women's Day webinar. Very excited to have all of you joining us and taking the time to honor women's role and leadership, especially here in Malaysia. My name is Hazel Desmond, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar on women in leadership. Today's webinar is actually being held to celebrate, of course, the celebration or the contributions of women in our society, and also to recognize the importance of embracing equity. We have an outstanding panel of experts who will share their knowledge, experiences, and strategies for advancing women's equity. But before that, let me quickly run through a few housekeepings. The first is, of course, on audio and video settings. Please stay muted while you are not speaking. And to participants who's joining us from all over the country, you can turn on your video if you like, so we can see all your beautiful faces. But if you rather not, that's totally okay. And as we go through this event for the next 60 minutes, please feel free to use the Q&A box to ask any questions, share acknowledgements, or personal opinion if you have any. And we will be, and I will start to select questions by 11:50 a.m. Okay, and depending on how many questions we have from the participants, I may invite you maybe to unmute or turn on your video to ask your questions to our panels, or I may also only read the questions or your feedback. Okay, that's all I have for now for housekeeping. And now we're gonna start with our amazing panels in the house. Our panels today are accomplished women leaders who have made a significant impact in their respective fields. You know, when I read through their profiles, biography last night, I was like, wow, I'm going to speak to a room full of powerful and accomplished women. So I would like to introduce our panel speakers. Joining us today is Dr. Hafsah Hashim, Independent Non-Executive Director, Zurich Life Insurance Malaysia Berhad and Zurich Takaful Malaysia Berhad. Dr. Hafsah has a vast experience in public sector administrations and has held several leadership positions in her career, including a few key important ministries in Malaysia. I remember her from my years as a broadcast journalist. And I used to see Dato' Hafsah gracefully leading during her years in SME Corp. And Dato' Hafsah now currently sits on the board of directors for various organizations. Dato' Hafsah, we are thrilled to have you with us today. And also joining us in the room is Yang Mulia Cik Puan Sarimah binti Ibrahim. And of course, she don't need any introduction. She's a TV host, life coach, and mental health advocate, and has been on morning show as radio announcer and recording artist for the past 23 years. And Cik Puan Sarimah has been an active speaker in discussions, particularly on topics related to mental health and women's welfare. And Cik Puan Sarimah is now the patron of Mental Illness Awareness and Support Association, MIASA Malaysia. Cik Puan Sarimah, we are really honored to have you here to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you. I was the patron for MIASA.
Right, thank you. And joining us is also CEO of Zurich Life Insurance Malaysia, Madam Khoo Eileen. With over 25 years of experience in various strategic and senior management roles, Madam Khoo Eileen brought with her an excellent understanding of the insurance market in Malaysia. Her previous leadership in distribution channel management, marketing, product development, and operations are really vital for her to lead and drive business growth in her current position. Madam Eileen, we are very honored to have you here as well.
Thank you,
and
Hazel.
joining us together as well is Chief Human Resource Officer of Zurich Malaysia, Madam Noor Faizah Arshad. Madam Noor joined Zurich Malaysia in January 2014, and prior to that, Madam Noor was the HR Director of a leading multinational hypermarket, Tesco, overseeing HR for more than 12,000 employees, over 40 plus locations for the past 8 years. And she has also handled several M&A exercises, organization restructuring, and corporate culture integration throughout her 20 years of experience. Madam Noor, I'm sure you will have a lot of invaluable insight for us, and we're very happy to have you here today with us this morning. Okay, enough with the formality. My personal goal as your moderator for today's conversation is to make sure it is as casual, as meaningful, as heartfelt, and also as thought-provoking conversation as much as possible. All right, so in order to get started, I'm going to share a very provocative blanket statement, okay? The notion that women's leaders are not good leaders because we tend to be emotional. So my first question will be for you, Dr. Hafsa Hashim. What do you have to say about this? And why do we need more women in leadership?
Wow. Thank you so much, Hazel. Women are emotional, but that's what, not just women, everyone is emotional, men or women, we are all emotional. We have got emotions. That's what God created us to have emotions. We fall in love. That's emotion, isn't it? But having said that, your question on why do we need more women in the leadership? A very interesting question, because to me, it makes big business sense to put women in as leaders. Go back to your family, Hazel. Who makes the decisions at home? Who is the home minister? Who is the finance minister? It's women, right? Women is ingrained in them to become leaders even from a home life. And therefore, as they go and march on into corporate life, into business life, it just becomes second to none. They are just natural leaders as they go out in managing their corporations, managing their institutions, managing their business, that they are a leader themselves. Now, I think as you put emotion into leadership, this is where you see for women, they do not leave anything behind. They go into very detailed. And sometimes people think that's emotion. No. It's because we women are meticulous. You look at the homes that is being run by your mothers, for example, and you yourself. It's neat because you're there, right? It's neat because you take charge and you know where to put things out. We are structured. Women are structured. God created us to be second to none to the men. We are made from the ribs of men. We walk with the men, not in front of the men, not behind the men. We walk together with them, right? And here is where when we put women into leadership position, they complement the roles of the men, whom physically are supposed to be more strong physically, right? So that is where I think that if we were to put women in leadership position, it's not because of quota, but it's because of the fact that these women, they deserve that leadership position by virtue of the fact that they are knowledgeable, they are intelligent, and they are more structured, and they are more organized at the workplace. Now, a lot of data have been put across, Hazel, on if we have women as leaders in organizations, yeah, the organizations is more well run. It will bring in greater profits, greater return on equity, return on investment. Let me just quote to you some data that's coming in from the recent one was from Bloomberg 2023 Gender Equality Index across the world, and it shows that this latest data that Malaysia surpasses the global average of gender equality by putting women on boards and women as leaders. And the top 4 companies from Malaysia that they quoted is Bursa Malaysia, DG, Top Glove, and Maybank. Hey, they forgot about Berjaya. Berjaya has got an all-women board recently, all right? And this is where something that we want to push in and look into. And Zurich themselves, they have got 67% of women employees at Zurich, of which 32% are women directors at Zurich, Malaysia. And you've got Zurich Excos, 50% are women. So what I'm trying to say is, if we were to put in complementary roles of men and women alike, then you see it brings in greater profitability, greater return on investment, and greater return of equity to the company. Now, one data that really struck me is coming in from McKinsey. Now, McKinsey shows that if Malaysia is able to eliminate this gender diversity, right, and put in more women on corporate boards, that is going to bring into Malaysia an increase of 8.2% more than usual GDP growth, and this is equivalent to 50 billion US dollars. And to me, that's a lot of money. And it makes all business sense that to put women in leadership position by virtue, I repeat, by virtue of the fact that they deserve the leadership position, not because of quota, not because of anything, but because they are intelligent, but because they are, what do you call it, more hardworking, and because of the fact that they're able to bring in a lot of diverse conversations at boards, at management level, and to be part of the whole entire working team, to make it holistic and to be able to push through what you call a better sense of purpose for the organization. And that's why
Yeah.
we need more women in the leadership in the industry.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that there's so many data and research that supports the idea that teams perform better when they include more women. And I would like to continue the conversation by reflecting on the progress women have made in different spheres of life. And Cik Puan Sarima, you're definitely a public figure to look up to when it comes to balancing motherhood, family life, wellness, as well as career. So based on your experiences, has the post-COVID and its effect actually widened the gap in terms of your capabilities, expectation, and needs as a woman?
Right. Well, firstly, good morning, everyone, to all the esteemed speakers, and thank you, Hazel, for asking me this question. So our topic today, obviously, the focus for this year's International Women's Day is embracing equity. And a lot of people messaged me before this talk, and they asked me, what's the difference? Because often when we have these conversations, like we just heard just now from Dato, we were talking a lot about how women need to be in that leadership position. And I think the way I can define the difference between equality and equity relating to her mentioning her in her speech just now was the goal is equality in the sense that we need the women in more leadership positions. That is the ultimate goal. The goal is the thing we can see, and that is equality. Equality is the goal. So we want to see the women in those positions. We want to be in those positions. But the means to getting there, the process of it is actually equity, meaning that we give each person, each individual, the resources that they need to get to those positions. Because if we only say we need more women in leadership positions, the question then is, how do we do that? Because a woman is unique to herself and a man is unique to himself, and every man and every woman is different and unique in themselves. So we can't place the same demographic, the same type of person in the same box, basically. So when you ask me about COVID, from a lot of the research that I've read on and a lot of the people I've spoken to, I did more than 400 talks during COVID, webinars, seminars, all focusing on mental health. And it relates back to leadership, because at the end of the day, I believe that in order for the country to succeed at its core, and not just talking about finances, economics, society, etc., it comes down to the family unit. When I say the family unit, I mean the mother, the father, and the children within that house and the extended family, and how they function. Are they functioning with equality to begin with? Are they functioning in a household of equity? Is each child given what they need as individuals in order to thrive so that they can even consider becoming leaders later on? Is there gender bias at home, for example? So during COVID, what happened was there was unfortunately an increase in, because we were all locked in together, and we were sort of like, nobody could run away, like we couldn't go on holidays, etc., to escape any difficulties and challenges, and mental health coping mechanisms were thrown out the window. So we were all thrown together in this situation where it was highly stressful, very much pressurized. And guess what? Often enough, the women were the ones who had the ability, the coping skills to deal with that emotional stress more than men. Because just by nature, we're able to cope with those sort of feelings and the emotions. And what was seen as being a weakness was possibly, transformed and seen more as a strength. And more conversations opened up about mental health, etc., during that period of time. And I saw it myself. Every single day I was on a webinar, everybody was talking about mental health issues. And why do I keep talking about this? Because if we want to address leadership positions, we want the goal to be the result to be equality, we have to talk about mental health issues. Because without mental health issues being the primary focus of the government and the country, if the people are sick, you can give somebody R1 billion. If they are not mentally stable and emotionally stable, it's going to mean nothing at the end of the day. And those are some of the issues we see, what we call society issues, drug addiction, etc. These are all symptoms of a deeper problem, which is mental health issues that are not being given the resources to be addressed. So if we're talking about equity this International Women's Day, we need to continue to open this conversation. We need to find a systematic approach to ensuring that every Malaysian has access to mental health assistance awareness to begin with at schools, within the rural areas, throughout the entire layer of society. Mental health suffered tremendously, Hazel, during COVID for all Malaysians. The statistics are there. I don't need to bore you with them. We became more insecure and fearful. Jobs were lost. And because of that, unfortunately, the gap for women became wider in the workplace. We were needed more at home, but unfortunately, it's survival of the fittest, and companies had to make decisions. And that's where we saw the inequality often. So, yes, we definitely suffered during the COVID period. And what it did was we also subjected a lot of women to, unfortunately, situations where they faced domestic violence. There was an increase of divorce rates. There was an increase of domestic violence rates, etc. We saw all this, and a majority of the victims were women. So the question goes back to how we address these mental health issues before we talk about equity and dividing resources, before we get to the equality itself. So there's like a three-layered thing, in my opinion. Mental health comes first, then we talk about how we divide the resources for equity, and then we can achieve equality.
Yeah, I agree with you that post-COVID has left us in different different level in the playing field, right? So
Yes.
thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Cik Puan Sarima. We will get back to you on that.
A tiny bit, Hazel. So what women needed
Yes.
to do as a result of that was upskill, vocational skills. And then we also need a nationwide campaign and a movement from the media. Stop all these ridiculous TV shows where women are becoming victimized. They're not in leadership positions. There's absolutely zero notion of equity within our local TV dramas and entertainment. We need to remove this because it is brainwashing us further into that despair and that helplessness for women.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Cik Puan Sarima. My next question will be for Madam Khoo Eileen. Before joining Zurich, Madam Eileen was formerly Group CEO at Tune Protect Group and has also held key senior roles in Prudential Assurance Malaysia Berhad, Hong Leong Assurance Berhad, and AIG Malaysia. Madam Eileen, across your various different organizations, what are the main challenges or obstacles that you face in pursuing your corporate passion, and how do you overcome it?
Well, very good question, Hazel. If you ask me, the key thing is when I first started, right, it's about trying to learn as much as possible. Now, that is a good thing, but sometimes in life, when you put that kind of pressure to do too many things in one go, and the key thing with women, as what you've heard from Cik Puan and Hafsa, Dato' Hafsa, we put so much pressure on ourselves to make sure that when we learn too many things, every single thing that we learn, we want to be as perfect as possible. And that's something that a stress that we put on ourselves. So, that's one thing that if you ask me, it's all about focus. But I would have to say this, right? So that the other bit is lesser time for family, right? But life is all about choices, right? And it's about balance. The challenge is always the cultural expectations of us as leaders and as women, right? So for me, but as time goes by, you learn to prioritize, learn to see what's right, you see the world more as you go through. And I would say that working hard and trying to learn, everything is about learning, right? And with that learnings and the knowledge and all, I would have to say what works out well for me now, that if anything comes, I'm actually very calm in many ways, because when you have the knowledge and the experience, three things that we all need to have, whether you're women or men, right? You have to have you have to make sure throughout the whole journey you gather as much knowledge as possible, ask, learn, and learn beyond your current scope, right? Go the extra mile, gather the experience hands on, just not on theory, and just not on just paperwork. Get onto the experience, talk to as many people as possible. The third thing is have a thought process. Now, I heard from Dato just now about structure. Yes, but having a thought process, ladies and women, and this is something that men should learn from our strength. Thought process is very important, because with thought process, you are able to take a step back and look at any situation. When you have some challenges or crises, you are able to take a step back and like people say, cut the elephant into pieces and then put it up. And you are able to be very calm and very zen about that. But this thing needs to have these three things: your knowledge, experience, and thought process. So for me, yes, there were challenges in the earlier start, but there's benefits towards the end of it, right? In terms of family, it's across the time and the path that you try to balance that. But to my take to all the young women out there, embracing equity, as what people say, equity and quality. One word that I would describe is be indifferent, be impartial, whether you're men or women, right? Look at it, look at yourself as an individual, not by gender. And if you actually apply that and acquire those knowledge, experience, and the learnings of a thought process, I think you'll be fine in any way. But these are the things that I think people should really look at the young, when you're young and you're throughout the journey of their career. Thank you, Hazel.
Thank you for sharing your thought, Madam Eileen. If there is one important thing that many of us have learned for the past 3 years, is that we can all work virtually from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And specifically on digitization, my next question will be for Madam Nurfaiza Arshad. How does Zurich leverage innovation and technology to put all the women executives at the center in order to build more inclusive, sustainable and resilient workplace where women don't have to pick whether do I leave this job, or do I resign, or do I continue? How please share with us any stories from Zurich on this aspect.
Thank you, Hazel. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum. I think, that question, and I reflect on it, it has various components. Yeah. It's very tempting for me to say, oh, okay, we have this WhatsApp group, we have these Teams chats, we have this, Teams meeting. But, when we look at the question, or rather the issue that's posed to us, there's a few components, important components in there that we need to peel. Nak membawang lah ni kan, peel the onion. Yeah. So I think there are three main components there. First is, leveraging innovation and technology. So the other part is, who are we talking about here? Women executives, women at the workplace. And to achieve what outcome? The outcome is to be more inclusive, to be more sustainable, resilient, and enabling a resilient workforce, right? So there are those three components. So the who, the what, the where, and the why. My favorite way to peel situation, to peel the onion. Now, so when we look at technology, thank God, I don't know what we call it, one thing or item. It's one thing that do not discriminate on gender. Whether you're male or whether you're female, whether you're, whatever age group, technology is indifferent to gender. But it's how we leverage on it, is how we use it and how we put it to good use that will make the difference. That's one thing about technology. Now, and then the issue of inclusive, sustainable, resilience, those are all big words. But at the end of the day, it's how do we leverage this technology to make sure that everyone, regardless of who they are or what they do for the business, where they reside, close to office or, far away from office, whether they are back to office, whether they are hybrid and working from home, how they can be equally involved and feel supported in enabling them to be productive at the workplace, right? And especially for women executive in your particular question, like what Dato mentioned just now, in Zurich, we have 67% of our workforce who are people managers, female people managers. That's a lot, right?
Yes.
and 50% excos are female. Okay, so now with mindfulness of what technology can help, we leverage on the ecosystem of various technology innovations. We don't have to start creating and develop the app on our own. We, leverage on the ecosystems that are available, whether it is e-learning, mobile app, whether it is, Teams chat, whether it is in terms of, access to shared data via our SharePoint. So in many ways, I think it's not unique to Zurich, but the mindfulness of what this brings, democratizing the access, using technology to enable people to still be able to be effective women executive at the workplace. Because, like you said, in a hybrid environment, it does not matter where they are, they can still have access. We are very lucky in Malaysia because people have, quite good access to systems. They know how to use handphones. They can they have access to laptops and computers. So we're very lucky in that aspects in Malaysia. But how do we do it, and how do we mindfully to make sure that it addresses the issues that could prevent from achieving that inclusivity, sustainability, and resilience. So, and the word resilience, to be able to bounce back. So I think it's, it helps to address some of those issues. We also have mentoring program, which give our people access to either to be mentors for the female leaders or to become mentees, and they have access to these people from across APAC, not even confined to just their department or to Malaysia, but also to across APAC. Yeah, so I think put this together mindfully to make sure that we help address the situation.
Thank you, Puan Noor. Coming back to you, Dr. Hafsa. Based on your experience, right, coming at this level, how far have we come when it comes to different business sectors in Malaysia? Do you see that we have greater gender diversity or women in leadership?
Well, I think very interesting question there. Do different business sectors have greater gender diversity? I think at this age and time, as Puan Noor mentioned, that technology does not recognize gender discrimination, right? And the fact that people typically stereotypically they would say that teachers are better female teachers, better female nurses, and things like that. But I like to bring this conversation into and challenging everyone to break stereotypes and to look into unconscious biasness. Now you're seeing more women getting into, they will climb poles at TNB, these are the engineers, for example, they will go and dive down to do what do you call it, to check for the sea companies and things like that, the marine companies. So I think it drives adrenaline in all of us. If we do not go into biasness in terms of this kind of job suits women and this kind of job suits more men, right? We see more women. Look here, the new CEO of Shell, Puan Siti Huraira, is a female, all right? And she's managing oil and gas, for example, right? And you're looking also into the incoming PwC executive chairperson is also a female, Puan Nur Ain. What you're looking at here is the fact that if we were to, again, keep on being stereotyped into this one suits men, this one suits women, we were lost. We'll be lost into this space of just what mentioned by Puan Noor of digitalization, of technology empowerment, and how women can be made more relevant. Believe you me, women can fit into all kinds of molds and sizes, right? So it's all that it takes in them is the fact that they want to reach out. All it takes in them is that they want to succeed and they want to go into all fields. You will see that there will be a woman that's going to the moon, a women astronaut going to the moon. In actual fact, the first women astrophysicist, the first astrophysicist in Malaysia is women. That is Tan Sri Mazlan. Her name just happened to be Mazlan, but she's a woman. All right, she comes from my school. So what I'm going to say is, I would like to see that we move away with this unconscious biasness, move away from these stereotypes, and women can now be in all fields of economy. Doesn't mean that they have got they cannot go into engineering. Doesn't mean that they cannot go into space. Does look, the men, they're also going into the chefs of Malaysia here are also men, right? So that, I think, what I'm going to put across is the fact, if there is competition, it gets very healthy, men and women, right? And here is where they drive the adrenaline that comes into them. It drives success, and you can see better outcomes, better results, and extraordinary what do you call it, outcomes that comes through, if we do not see this stereotypes or biasness towards gender. So while I am for what do you call it, gender equality and gender equity, I would say that competition brings in different sorts of agenda to succeed in a better workplace.
Yeah, Dr. Hafsa actually mentioned one very important keyword, which is biasness, right? Cik Puan Sarima, do you have any personal story or any hurdle that you've overcome when it comes to embracing gender equity and overcoming biasness?
Yeah, thanks, Hazel. I would just like to reflect a little bit on what some of the amazing ladies just mentioned just now, if you're okay with that, before I answer that.
Sure.
Sure. You know, when we're talking about digital, the goal is digital, right? So everybody on the planet has access to digital technology. And it's true that digital technology does not have a gender bias. Unfortunately, we as humans have the gender bias, and we apply it to the access to digital technology. If you look at the UN survey, I think it's roughly 393 million adult women in low, medium income countries. They don't have mobile phones still today. And globally, women are 8% likely to own a mobile phone, less likely than a man. So if we're really going on the concept of, you know, digital technology being the focus, we need to really look into those numbers. It's of a huge concern. I know that's true because when I've gone and I've traveled and I've done a lot of work and I go into more kampong areas, and even people that I know are close to me, they haven't got a clue how to use a mobile phone. And if the internet is the access to the world today and all knowledge and communication and all that we need, and most of our women in the world do not have access to this, we've got a massive problem going on there. So I would like to see how the government can ensure this, and I'd really be curious to see the numbers for Malaysia. And it's wonderful that Zurich is, you know, focusing on this, and I love listening to the numbers that have been brought up by two ladies from Zurich. You know, hearing that there's so many women there, you know, women taking control of their lives and in that position. But referring to Dato Hafsa's comment on gender bias and your question, Hazel, very much so. Gender bias comes down to, let's look at it at its core. It is a belief system, and it's something that's instilled into us. It can be conscious and unconscious, unfortunately. That means when we're hiring somebody, you know, we unconsciously believe this person fits into this category and they won't be able to do A, B, C, so therefore we put them in another box. Where did this come to? When this is why I always bring it back to mental health issues, because it's how we are raised as a society. Do we see mom going out to work and mom coming back to cook? So mom's a leader at work and mom is also a leader at home, whereas dad isn't? Or do we see dad as being the boss and mom is not? All these gender biases, as Dato mentioned, you know, how do we get rid of them? Because we can say that we need to put it aside and, you know, that's how we're going to level that playing field. That's the process of equity. That's how we're going to achieve equality for women. But at the end of the day, I would like to ask this question to all of us, you know, who are we competing against actually? Are we actually competing against men, or are women more competitive with each other? Maybe we have a gender bias towards each other, women. If you get what I mean for a second. You know, we're always sort of trying to drag the men into this conversation. And yes, there are the issues, you know, the physical attributes that men have and the domestic violence numbers, et cetera, et cetera. I can get into that a whole other day, you know, talking about the root causes of addiction and violence. The men need help too in their own way. You know, it's not so black and white in terms of bad guy, good guy. But when we talk about women, we are more competitive with each other. And I believe if we look at the stats and the life experience I've had, it's not men that have held me down from leadership positions. I can tell you something, it's always been the women. Whenever I've wanted to get a promotion or get a certain TV show, I would find out that it was the female producers and the female directors who had some sort of chip on their shoulder. Let's talk honestly here. I can only speak from my job. Maybe the other ladies can understand. They are the ones who membawang ke apa, you know, and we say, oh dia dah kahwin dengan ni, dia tak payah buat job ni lagi. Or dia dah mengandung, badan dia tak elok. Or, you know, tak cukup cantik ke, dah nampak tua ke. There's always something coming from us women to each other that's holding us down. So the question is, you know, what's going on with us women that we are actually reinforcing the stereotypes and biases, you know, in meetings like, alah, kau emo lah, kenapa kau emo sangat, you know, like, why are we using these terms still, these outdated terms, like you're so emotional because you're a woman, or dia a very alpha female, jenis macam, dia sangat terlalu kuat, like, terlalu kuat? You mean I actually know how to do my job? You mean I'm actually voicing my concerns instead of being submissive? So all these gender biases, I mean, you know, we want society to change it, and we often point the finger at men and say they're the ones that are keeping the ceiling, you know, across our heads. But us women need to work harder at supporting each other. We need to be able to encourage each other. And this digital age has, unfortunately, Hazel, brought an awful lot of pressure on us women to compete with each other. And not only is it a massive mental health issue, it's affecting the workplace, because what people are putting out there is not the truth, from filters to only putting snapshots of my promotion, my job, my car, my handbag, my lifestyle. And I have this lifestyle because I succeed at this, but we're not seeing the full picture of the human being. And that's creating a lot of mental health issues on women. So a lot of women feel very afraid to go for that leadership role, to go for it in their life, you know, break free and try, only because they believe they can't do it or they're not good enough. And that comes down to how we are raised. Were we raised in a supportive environment? Were we given equal or resources that we needed? A girl who lives in a kampong trying to go to a school for a privileged girl who lives nearby, who has a maid, a driver, etc., is not going to have the same opportunity, and she's going to struggle. And stats show later on suffer from mental health issues, a predisposition towards addiction, you name it, that will probably not support her sustaining her academic focus and career path the way she deserves to have it. So if we rewind back to the core, you know, what do we need to address as a society to support us women so that we can achieve those leadership roles? We need to look at the biases, and we've got to go to the homes. We've got to go right down deep into the core of how we raise our children and how we speak to our children and how we educate them, to make sure there are no biases and that we instill a higher self-esteem. I've experienced it in my TV shows. I've got to show up, Hazel, ladies. I've got to have the makeup. I've got to have the heels. I've got to have the beautiful dress that cost me 5,000 ringgit just to go to work, to stand next to a male host who's wearing the same suit that he wore 5-6 years ago. But I'm getting the same pay. But, you know, I'm thinking, well, he doesn't have, what if I have my menses? Let's be honest. How am I supposed to execute this the same? So I've got to put more effort in. I'm not saying it's not possible. You know, let's not use that as an excuse. I can do it. We've all done it. The ladies watching and all of us here, we can do it. But do we get the resources? Do we get the support necessary? Don't tell me, oh, because you have this, you can't do it. I can do it. But be fair to me. Give me the support that's needed. Let's have an extra fee for hair and makeup and high heels. It sounds so small, but if you want me to look like this and present myself in my job like this, I can do it. But I need that support and the resources to assist me a little bit different to what my male colleague needs, for example. And awards, Hazel. Why is there one award for best TV host? There's different requirements for male and female. There should be 2 separate awards, etc. So there's a lot of different situations that we could get into, and we'll be here till tomorrow, Hazel, talking about it.
Thank you. That is such a heartfelt sharing, Cik Puan. I know that I'm sure our participants have a lot of questions. Again, thank you very much to all our participants who are joining us today. You can start to leave your questions in the Q&A box, and I will start to read them by 11:50 a.m. during our Q&A session. Okay, coming back to Madam Eileen, right? As a company that cares for what matters, perhaps you can share what are the initiatives taken by Zurich to encourage a stricter diversity, equity, and inclusion practice?
Well, I guess Zurich really does practice the gender diversity and inclusion, right? There are many platforms, right? We have, say, for example, the Women's Innovation Network, right? And we have also a Zurich Speak Up, right? There's a forum for you to speak up if you feel that you're being repressed or whatnot. Yeah. However, there's one thing that I also personally, if I look at that, so where Zurich itself, they actually do provide all these platforms. It's a great company in that sense of diversity and inclusion. But now I just want to take a step back, and if I look at that, company will provide all of these things, right? But the very key thing is exactly like what Dato said. She mentioned not just biasness, she mentioned the word unconscious biasness. So sometimes it is also the cultural expectations, and we being from young imbued in that. This is one thing that we have to bring out the word as what Chit Wan said, balance. And that's something sometimes is missing in ourselves. We have to bring it out of ourselves and educate the community and society as a whole. For example, if we look at it, anything of that platform is good, but anything that goes towards an extreme is never good. Say, for example, this is my personal view. Kalau if we look at it, do we really need a forum called a women's club, women's group? But it's acceptable. If you talk about expectations, when we say that it's acceptable, but imagine like for today, we have women in leadership. That's the topic of discussion, right? And if we suddenly put the word men in leadership, suddenly we put men's innovation network and things like this. Suddenly it takes off tangent and it goes to a set. Oh, it becomes it's perceived differently. So I'm saying that whatever it is, we take a balanced view, because you can always take it to the extreme. And if men start something, it becomes a mampus habis, right? They say that, oh, that was really discrimination and blah, 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 right? So we ourselves must be balanced. But in terms of the organization, apart from the platforms, what Zurich provides is also in terms of corporate. You heard from Wano just now. In corporate, we actually encourage a lot of these things. We give opportunities, irrespective of whether you're men or women. It's a very balanced and fair opportunity. The second bit is our board. Our board constantly ensures that we practice diversity and inclusion, and there's a discussion on that, how many of the board members, as you have heard from Dato, and also not only on the board, but the employees and senior management role. So this is also in line with regulators, and it is all going back to the same words of fair treatment. Yeah, a fair treatment. So we have to bring it out, right? And now, if you ask me, one key word that I would also say for women ourselves. Now, we always say that we should not be treated differently, right? We should be given that equal and equitable treatment. However, we also, for us to progress, we should not expect to be treated differently just because we're women. You know what I mean? On the other side, that you should give me this favor, you should give me this opportunity, which is special, and I have this network. No. So I repeat again, we should not be treated differently in an adverse manner, but we should not expect it to be treated differently, to be given special treatment as well. Now, we must always appreciate the fact that the company, like our company in Zurich, provides an environment for us to be able to work in an indifferent and impartial practices and culture that we have. So it is not so much as in the gender thing, but always there's a difference between a mentality of entitlement and a mentality of being grateful, right? So an entitlement, you always seek to be always fighting for gender equality, but being grateful is leveraging on an environment that helps us to promote unconscious biasness over time. And that's the word that I'd like to share. And I hope it resonates and to all the women in the workforce, right? When we get too far off to fight, it's not so much as in a fight, right? It is about being grateful and having that ecosystem to support. Never take it as just an entitlement. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, Ponor, do you have something to add on that?
Thank you, Hazel. I think that bit about unconscious bias really trigger my memory, many years ago. Don't want to sound too ancient, but yes, many years ago. When I first graduated from high school. So we went to join that preparatory college. So I came from a all girls boarding school. In all girls boarding school, you are the captain, you are the president, you are the pengerusi, this and that. You are also the pom-pom girl. And when you do stage shows, any stage shows, I will always raise my hand. You can be the hero, you can be the heroine. Anything goes. Now, reality check at the age of 17 when you joined that preparatory classes, where the class is mixed, co-ed, and there are these, I don't know whether it's conscious or unconscious. Oh, girls, you all have to sit at the back. Oh, girls, you all don't, please keep your voice down. Girls, you all jangan bising-bising lah, jangan gedik and all that. And we have, a few of us who were from single sex school at that time was like, this is madness. We are not used to this, no way. Why? Tell us why we can't sit at the front. My eyes are not so good. I have to sit at the front, or I'm not that tall. I need to sit at the front, So, but I think the boys at that time were quite taken aback because we were outspoken. We speak for what we feel. We need to be spoken, and we sort of negotiate up front, and that was to me my first experience of addressing inequity for equality, for the benefit that's supposed to, be indifferent to either gender. Now, at the workplace, though, when we talked about leadership, I think, like what Chip Sarima mentioned, we women will also need to support one another. Do not do disservice to us, to ourselves. I remember 2 years ago, similar, 3 years ago, before pandemic, there was a congregation, similar, physical, talking about women in leadership, and then there was one question thrown to the audience. A lot of the audience were women. One question thrown to the woman. How many of you prefer to have male leaders versus female leaders? And guess what? The female leaders in that audience, actually, majority of them prefer to have male leaders. Hello, what happened? So I think now that many of us are in leadership position, whether at whatever level, middle, top, or even, when you're just starting to, embark on your career, help one another, either coach, mentor, become BFFs for us to bounce off against one another, what works, what cannot works, and share learnings. We learn from mistakes, be brave to make mistakes, but don't just make it recurring, because then we become unreliable, and learn from one another, find mentor, find, a role model, and don't be afraid to be confident, because confident is not about knowing everything, but it's about knowing what are the areas that we need to develop and then take action on it. Janganlah, okay, I know I'm not that good, and tunggulah nanti, when I become a manager and become a leader, then I will, exemplify that leadership. It doesn't work that way. Okay. All right. So I think that's my take on it, Hazel.
Thank
Back to
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Panor, on your advice for young women who are starting their career and how women should support other women in organization. Thank you so much for that advice. I'm very, very mindful of the time that we have left. We only have like 10 minutes. It's 11:50. So it's time for me to read some Q&A from our participants. And one of it is about a question on why female leaders should leave their comfort zone to embrace their natural leadership. Maybe Dato' Hafsah would like to answer that?
Oh, women should leave their comfort zone and embrace natural leadership. Natural leadership in this context. Wow, as I said earlier in my conversation, that women do have that natural leadership, even back from homes, right? So why would they want to leave their comfort zone? But for the fact that they want, most of them, they do leave because they want to spend more time to look after their family. Other than that, I would believe that they need to relocate to some other place and to be with their parents probably. But in this context, why would they leave their comfort zone for other purposes? I couldn't think of one, except that probably they want to have more me time. Now, this conversation bring in together, as I listened to all of you, right? And in particular, what's mentioned by Tok Puan earlier, is the fact that sometimes the competitor is not other women sometimes, but it's you yourself. You yourself are the main competitor. You, as mentioned by Panor earlier, sometimes that level of confidence, you think that you can't do it. Just recently, I in fact not recently, and also many a few instances before this, when we want to promote women into higher positions, they would think like, I don't think I'm ready, right? They're not confident, as mentioned by Panor, but believe you me, if you offer a man, right, he only have one skill, say, yes, I'll take it. I'll take it. The man, the level of confidence is different. So for women to want to leave their comfort zone for doing nothing, I don't think it will happen. But if they were to leave their comfort zone, as in they are being paid high salaries, 100,000 a month, but this time round, I want to be my own boss. Again, it's a leadership position. They're moving into another field, but not really leaving their comfort zone for the sake of comfort, right? So here is where you will see that for whatever they do, wherever they are, even if they leave their comfort zone and they move to another place, another area, another dimension, another situation, they will still be that natural leader that they are. A leader that takes charge of situation, a leader that knows how to address issues, a leader that is able to organize things on the ground. And that's where I would believe that as you brought in that part of the question, i.e. to embrace natural leadership, you place women anywhere, they are natural leaders themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Hafsah. I'm going to read another feedback or questions from our participant. It says, good day to all. Thank you to all our speakers for sharing your experiences. I agreed on the programming part, the influences from home, relatives, society, social, education system, from school. But school don't really provide the mental support. So what can we do about this as a mother, as a wife, as a co-worker to guide our young ones? Maybe Cik Puan Sarima want to take that.
Hi, thanks. Okay, so what can we do? Ultimately, just a little bit referring to what Datuk mentioned earlier, like our main competitor being ourselves, it is fear. The fear of failure is something that we all carry. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're not working or whether you're a CEO of a company, there's always a fear of failure. My main issue with that first question just now, just before I answer this one, was the word comfort. Because we assume that wherever we are at, it is comfortable. And that's not necessarily true. It's not easier to be a housewife, and it's not easy to be a CEO, and it's not easy to be single, and it's not easy to be married. There's never a position in life where where we're actually comfortable. It's only a situation where we are not pushing our own boundaries. So it's like less adrenaline lah, to choose it, as Datuk mentioned earlier. If I stay at home, I become used to it, and you kind of become desensitized rather than comfortable, because for what's comfortable for me might be very uncomfortable for you, Hazel, and vice versa. So again, we have a little bit of an unconscious bias there running, where we think, oh, this is actually comfortable. That's why she sits at home. Dia tak nak try jadi boss, but dia comfortable. Maybe dia tak comfortable. Maybe dekat rumah tu ada banyak lagi cabaran that we don't know within her marriage, within her health, within her own mental health struggles, kan? But referring back to how can we help our children, it is true. If you look at different types of schools, so we've got to look at the different schools and the different types of whether it's private or government. I went to both. I went to a government school. I was in Sekolah Kebangsaan Sungai Buloh, Subang, and then I was in Ireland and I was in Dubai. So all the schools I went to, the biggest difference that I noticed was the voice. Okay, and I say this like this. When I went to international schools, the girls were allowed to voice their dissatisfaction more than the girls were allowed, as Puan Noor mentioned earlier, to voice their dissatisfaction or just even their personality. You know what I mean? Because voicing something means that that's part of who you are. It doesn't mean it's something bad. We can't keep categorizing black and white. Like if I complain, it's a bad thing. No, complain is there so that we can change and find a solution, which could be better for everyone. The voice of children in government schools is squashed because we are more on autopilot. Do this and follow this based on the biases and stereotypes that have been put into place for many, many, many years already. Let's not rock the boat, okay? Hopefully you'll come out with 15 A's and you'll be fine, okay? Whereas international schools are more like, it doesn't matter if you get the A's, but let's develop the person. So what does this person need? So what can we do? We can do it at home. First step is not to do it to our children what we don't do for ourselves. So if you're not practicing self-compassion, if you're not allowing yourself to voice your feelings at home, you can't expect your child to do so. And as your viewer said that they've stated the problem being within the family and in the schools not supporting this, it's true, but it starts with us. In the house, the mother and father, we are the leaders, like it or not. Whatever role we take on, whatever it's breadwinner or emotional leader, we are the leaders. They will follow what we do and what we say, not what we tell them to. So be that compassionate person for yourself. Don't be obsessed on the phone saying, oh, look at her, she's got more than me, or look at him. Don't be the father that's like, I need to work for this family, irregardless of if all of you are miserable, I need to put money. We've got to show them a way to exist that's different than the biases and stereotypes that we've had to live with, our generation. So it's our responsibility to have the conversations. What are you struggling with? Let's talk about it, girl or boy. What do you need? And I don't think that we should, it's entitlement. I think when we tell people don't expect something, we're in some way reinforcing the old school gender biases, stereotypes, like don't expect any better. It is what it is. But it's true, we need to be grateful for the opportunities and take advantage of it. If I worked in a company like Zurich, I would be on board every single opportunity that you threw me. I would be the one that goes, me, I want the promotion. I would, trust me. So I don't know if Zurich wants to have me or not, because I'll be going for every single job. But we need to help our children, the boys, to understand that they can say how they feel, and the girls to understand that they can say what they need. Because women have a problem saying what we need, and men have a problem with saying how they feel. And these are the first two things we need to address in our society and at home.
All right, this will be my final question to maybe perhaps Puan Noor and also Puan Eileen. Maybe you can add on a bit in this final 1 minute that we have. How can women support other women in their organizations?
No, you want to go first?
Giving the boss opportunity to go first. Go ahead.
Sorry? Okay. I think if you ask me to go back to that question, I'd like to address the question, what you said about giving the support, but going back to leave the comfort zone, right? In the very first place, I don't think any leaders have comfort zones. If we have comfort zones, we wouldn't be breaking through our comfort zones to get through the barriers. So that would be my first session and response. And because being comfortable leads you to being just where you are, right? Because what got you here won't get you there. And the way to get you there is to break your comfort zones. And so these leaders have that tendency. And for us, right, if we want to encourage females, right, or women leaders in the future, for the future leaders, I think it is back to breaking that mindset about this gender thing and all. It's all, if it is to be, it is all up to me. And it is about being able to speak up freely, right? It is able to break your own comfort zones, right? Looking at your skill sets and being aware of where your areas of improvements are. So where I'm concerned is that if you look at that, there was also a question on the Q&A side that actually states about what is being fair, what is being equal, and all. It's about having the right mindset about inclusion, right? So if you look at it, right, to be a female leader and to encourage others is first thing in any job that you hold, where you're managing a team. As leaders, you manage teams, right? What is important is making sure women or any leaders for that matter do not pick the like-minded or everybody in your team similar as your own strength. You can never build a great team. It is always about looking into diversity in terms of strengths, right? And to complement your areas where you're not strong with, to be able to admit and to be able to accept, and then to be able to have the respect from the team and acknowledge that, and together as one you can then lead, right? So that would be my really key parting words for the people. Yeah, thanks.
What one final words from you, Puan Faiza, to close our webinar today?
Okay, right. I think for me, really, as female leaders, at certain stage, it's no longer just about us. It's also about developing that pipeline to succeed us. You know, don't be hesitant to spot talents. Reach out to people who you see has potential, or they may be reserved, they may be extrovert, but you would be able to spot those talent and give them opportunities, give them visibilities, push them, including pushing them to that uncomfortable zone, like what we said just now. Because, people will learn the most when they are out of their comfort zone, right? Now, and having said that, for the young females in this channel, in this webinar today, or even if you're not female, you could learn this for your sister, for your mother, for your wives, or your girlfriends. Okay, start early to have that vision of where you want to go, where you want to be. Be forward thinking. Don't say that I want to become a leader one day, but is that have that vision in terms of a career ambition. What is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to achieve? Then chart your path. Because, even when we want to go somewhere, if we click Waze, you have to insert your destination. And then it will give you the path, right? So it's not enough to just set ambition. What do you want to be? I want to become a leader. But then you don't think about the path that you need to take. And in taking that path, that's where we have to face the truth about conscious or unconscious bias, about getting out of our own comfort zone, about doing disservice to us, our own gender, take the time to learn. make an effort to invest time in learning from others, learning from books, role models, and take action. It's not good to just learn on the books, hearing podcasts, but not take the actions. And when we take action, it's not about changing personality. It's not about changing your true colors. It is about modifying your behaviors, adjusting your style to suit to the audience as needs be. And like I mentioned, be confident in doing so. It's not about knowing everything, but it's about knowing what you don't know and then address it with the learnings that you pick up along the way. Thank you.
On that note, thank you to all our panelists and, of course, all our participants for making this a very meaningful and thought-provoking discussion. Of course, we cannot cover everything in 60 minutes, so at least we hope that this webinar will inspire more meaningful action towards a more equitable world to all, including male and female. Yes, and let's keep the conversation going outside this webinar. Have more conversation within your community, within your workplace, and within your family. With that, thank you very much for joining us. I hope to see all of you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, lady. Thank you so much.